The Princess of Lintari. Introduction to the Kingdom of Lintari. In the heart of a sprawling valley, nestled among towering mountains, there was a kingdom known for its breathtaking beauty and tranquility. Lintari, as it was called, was a land of lush forest where the trees reached for the sky and rivers as clear as glass snaked through the landscape. The people of Lintari lived in harmony with nature, and their most prized treasure was the grand palace that stood proudly at the edge of the kingdom, gleaming with golden spires and towering walls. This palace, surrounded by fragrant gardens and vibrant flowers, was home to a royal family whose name was known far and wide. Meet Princess Amara. At the heart of this peaceful kingdom lived Princess Amara, a woman whose beauty and intellect were unmatched. Her skin was the color of polished copper, glowing with an almost ethereal radiance under the sun. Her hair, long and dark, cascaded down her back like the night sky, untouched by the light of the stars. Her eyes were a deep, mesmerizing shade of amber, sparkling like the first rays of dawn. She was a woman of grace and poise, admired not only for her outward beauty but also for her sharp mind and wisdom beyond her years. From distant lands and foreign kingdoms, suitors would travel for days, even weeks, to ask for her hand in marriage. They were drawn to her charm, her radiance, and the stories of her intellect. But despite the many proposals, Princess Amara refused them all. Each suitor, regardless of his wealth, status, or looks, was deemed unworthy by her. She believed that no man could ever match her, that no man could offer her anything that would satisfy the grandeur of her being. Her pride and vanity. Princess Amara's rejection of suitors became famous across the lands. It was whispered among the people that she had grown so proud of her beauty that she felt no man could live up to the high standards she had set. Amara began to believe that she was above all, that she was destined for something greater than mere marriage. To her, no man could offer her the perfection she had come to expect from herself and her surroundings. With every rejected proposal, her vanity grew, and her heart grew colder. She saw herself as the jewel of the kingdom, beyond the reach of anyone who dared to approach her. Her father, King Tonu, who loved his daughter dearly, grew increasingly concerned. He had watched her grow into a young woman of grace and wisdom, but he also saw the danger in her pride. He knew that beauty could fade, that riches could be lost, and that a life of isolation could lead to regret. Yet, he respected her choices and continued to offer his advice with a heavy heart. The king's plea. One evening, as the golden light of the setting sun bathed the palace in warmth, King Tonu called Amara to his chambers. The walls of the room were adorned with the memories of the kingdom's history. Ancient tapestries, shining swords, and delicate crowns. The king's face, though still strong, bore the marks of age and worry. "My daughter," he began, his voice gentle but firm. "I see the beauty and wisdom in you, but I fear that your pride will lead you down a path that will leave you alone. No matter how perfect you may believe yourself to be, no one is without flaw. Even I, in all my years, have had to accept my own shortcomings." Amara, who had been staring out of the window at the rolling hills beyond, turned her gaze to her father. "I do not need anyone, father," she replied, her voice cold yet unwavering. "I am already perfect. Why should I settle for anything less?" King Tonu sighed, his heart heavy. "It is not about settling, my child. It is about understanding that love is not found in perfection but in acceptance. Your pride will only keep you from finding true happiness." Amara dismissed his words with a wave of her hand. "You worry too much, father. I will choose when the time is right, and not before." The king looked at his daughter, a deep sadness in his eyes. He knew that nothing he said would change her heart, and so he let the matter go, though he carried the weight of his concern silently. A mysterious arrival. Then, one fateful day, as the kingdom basked in the warmth of early spring, a strange traveler appeared at the gates of the palace. He was a man like no other. He wore a cloak of dark, flowing fabric that seemed to shimmer and shift in the wind. His face was hidden behind a mask, not one of silver or gold like the nobleman who often visited, but one crafted from a rare black stone that glowed faintly under the sunlight. The mask was shaped like a jagged, mythical creature, and its hollow eyes seemed to hold secrets unknown to the world. The guards were hesitant to allow him entry, but the traveler insisted. "I come to seek the hand of Princess Amara," he said, his voice steady and calm. "I bring no gold, no jewels, no armies. Only my words and my heart." Word of the visitor spread quickly, and the court was soon buzzing with whispers. A man with no riches, no noble blood, seeking the princess's hand. It was unthinkable. The king, intrigued but cautious, summoned Amara to the grand hall to meet the traveler. When Amara entered, her eyes narrowed at the mysterious man standing before her. His presence was unlike any she had ever felt. There was something ancient and powerful about him, yet he seemed entirely humble. His mask, though strange, did not detract from his dignity. Amara's curiosity grew, but her pride remained unshaken. "You wear no gold. You bring no horses or treasures. You do not even reveal your face," she said with a raised eyebrow. "What makes you think you are worthy of me?" The traveler tilted his head slightly, his voice soft but resolute. "Because I am the only one who does not wish to change you. You are perfect as you are, princess. And I seek only to honor the woman you have become." Amara's heart skipped a beat, but her pride quickly pushed the feeling away. She smiled, a small, knowing smile. "I see," she replied, her tone both amused and dismissive. "Then let us see what you truly have to offer." With those words, Amara sealed her fate. For in that moment, her curiosity had already begun to wane, and her pride was already building a wall between her and the truth, the encounter with the masked stranger. Amara's curiosity. Amara's heart stirred in a way it had never done before. There was something about the stranger's presence that ignited a flicker of curiosity within her, a feeling she could not explain. She had rejected countless suitors, all of them bringing riches or power, yet this man had none of those things. He was an enigma, his dark cloak, his strange mask, his calm confidence. His words were not of gold or jewels, but of something deeper, something intangible. As she observed him, Amara found herself intrigued. What kind of man would come to a kingdom like Lintori, with nothing but his words to offer? She had assumed that beauty and wealth were the only true measures of worth in the world. Yet, this man seemed to defy all that. "I've heard the whispers, stranger," she began, her voice softer than she intended. "You seek my hand, but you come with nothing but the clothes on your back. No treasure, no lands. No promises of power. Why? What do you want with a princess like me?" The masked man, Akena, lowered his head slightly in a gesture that seemed to show both humility and respect. "I seek not your beauty or your riches, Princess Amara. I seek only your heart. I believe that true worth is found not in the things we possess, but in the purity of our actions and the strength of our hearts." His words struck Amara like a thunderclap, a stark contrast to everything she had been taught to value. She had long believed that beauty was the key to her worth, and that anyone who could not offer her something as grand as her beauty was beneath her. Yet, Akena's calm demeanor, his quiet conviction, drew her in. Was there something more to the world than what her eyes had shown her? The court's reaction. As the conversation unfolded, Amara's mind wandered in directions she had never considered. The court around her, however, was not so receptive to Akena's words. The nobles, lords, and ladies who filled the hall looked on with shock and disdain. Their whispers grew louder, gossip spreading like wildfire. "What audacity," one noblewoman muttered. "A man of no station, no wealth, coming to ask for the princess's hand. He is a beggar in a robe," another nobleman sneered. "How dare he insult our kingdom with such impertinence?" But Amara, for the first time in her life, was not swayed by their opinions. Her gaze remained locked with Akena's, an unreadable expression on her face. She was torn. Torn between the pride that had defined her, and the curiosity that was quickly consuming her. Akena, unbothered by the court's reaction, continued speaking, his voice unwavering. I understand the value you place in beauty and wealth, princess. But beauty fades, and wealth can be stolen. The heart, however, is where true strength lies. And I seek a heart that is willing to understand the world beyond what is visible to the eye. Amara's heart raced. His words seemed to pierce through the layers of her pride, touching something deeper within her. He spoke of a truth she had never considered. Could it be possible? Could there be more to life than what she had known? Akena's offer. After a long pause, Akena made a daring proposal that shook the court to its core. I will show you the truth of the world, princess, but I ask something in return. Marry me, and I will take you on a journey that will reveal the hidden truth of this world, truths that lie beyond the walls of your palace, beyond the comfort of your kingdom. You will see the world as it truly is. The room fell silent. Amara's thoughts swirled in confusion and curiosity. This man, with nothing to offer but his words and his strange proposal, was asking for her hand in marriage. It was a bold and audacious request, but something in her stirred. Could this be a test, a challenge to her beliefs, to her pride? She had rejected so many suitors, thinking herself beyond them all. But now, faced with this man who seemed to know something that she didn't, Amara hesitated. There was an allure to his offer, an undeniable pull. Still, her pride fought against the idea. You offer me no riches, no power, she replied with a smirk, her eyes gleaming. But I am intrigued. Perhaps, if I marry you, I can learn the truth for myself. But remember this, stranger, I will always hold the power in this union. I will control what you show me. Akena's mask remained impassive, but Amara could sense a flicker of something in his eyes, something deep, something ancient. If that is your wish, princess, then so be it. But remember, control is an illusion. The truth has a way of revealing itself when least expected. Amara, confident in her own ability to control the situation, nodded. Then it is agreed. I shall marry you, and together we will see this truth you speak of. But know this, I will not be swayed by your words alone. A night of change. That night, as the kingdom rested beneath a sky full of stars, Amara prepared herself for the marriage that would change her life forever. She wore a gown of silk that shimmered in the candlelight, and her hair was braided with gold threads that matched the gleam of the palace walls. She looked every bit the princess, untouchable, beautiful, regal. But when Akena arrived to claim her hand, he wore no crown, no jewels. Only his dark cloak and the mysterious mask, which seemed to hold more secrets than she could fathom. There was no ceremony, no pomp or circumstance. Akena simply took her hand, and together they walked out of the grand hall, through the palace gates, and into the night. Amara's heart beat faster as they ventured deeper into the forest. The familiar path that she had walked countless times now seemed unfamiliar, dark, and full of strange sounds. The trees, once comforting in their beauty, now loomed over her, their twisted branches reaching out like fingers in the moonlight. Where are we going? She asked, her voice steady but tinged with uncertainty. Akena's answer was simple. We are going to find the truth, princess. And it lies beyond what you have known. The further they walked, the more Amara's doubts began to creep in. Her pride, her belief in her own control, began to waver. Was she truly prepared to face the truth of the world, a truth that could shatter everything she had believed? And as the night deepened, so too did the mystery. The world around them grew darker, more foreign, and more unsettling with every step. Amara was about to discover just how far her pride and curiosity would take her, and whether she was ready for the truth that awaited the path to the cave of lost souls. A journey into darkness. Amara had always been a creature of the light, her kingdom bathed in the warmth of golden sunrises and shimmering rivers. But now, walking with Akena, she felt the familiar warmth of Lintori slip away, replaced by a biting cold that gnawed at her skin. The trees around them seemed to stretch higher, their branches twisted and gnawed, as if they were alive, watching, waiting. The shadows deepened with each step, swallowing the moonlight, and the forest grew dense, each footfall echoing like a drumbeat in the silence. Her breath grew shallow, and her heart thudded in her chest. Akena, where are we going? This place, it feels wrong. Her voice wavered, an unfamiliar unease taking root in her heart. Akena did not respond immediately. His pace remained unhurried, and his cloak billowed around him as he moved through the darkened woods with an unsettling grace. The path ahead is the path you must walk, princess. Truth cannot be found in the light alone. You must face the darkness within you. His words sent a shiver down her spine. She had always prided herself on knowing the world, controlling it, mastering it through beauty, intellect, and the power of her name. But this was different. The air felt thick with an energy she couldn't place, like the very ground beneath her was alive with the weight of untold secrets. With each step, the trees grew more twisted, their bark blackened, as though they had been scarred by the passage of time itself. The once familiar sounds of the forest, chopping birds and rustling leaves, had fallen silent. In their place was a haunting stillness, broken only by the crunch of leaves beneath their feet. The deeper they traveled, the colder it became. Amara's skin prickled with an eerie sense of being watched, unveiling the true nature. After what seemed like hours, Akena stopped at the base of a colossal tree, its trunk so thick that it seemed to stretch up to the heavens. At its roots, a narrow opening led into the earth, an inky blackness that seemed to pulse with a life of its own. Amara's breath caught in her throat. The air here was thick, heavy, as though the world itself was holding its breath. "This is the cave of lost souls," Akena said softly, his voice carrying an almost reverential tone. "It is where truth lives, and where pride dies." As he spoke, Akena turned to face her, slowly removing his mask. Amara's eyes widened in shock as the fabric of his hood slipped away, revealing not a man, but something far more terrifying. The figure before her was a massive serpent, its body coiling and uncoiling as it rose to its full, towering height. Its scales shimmered with an otherworldly sheen, dark as the midnight sky, and its eyes like molten gold, glowed with an ancient wisdom. Akena's voice, no longer soft and gentle, echoed through the air, his tone calm yet filled with the weight of eternity. "Do not be afraid, princess. What you see before you is not a curse, but a guardian. A guardian of truth and humility." Amara stumbled back, her mind racing to make sense of the image before her. The serpent's massive head swayed, its golden eyes locking onto hers. You are not a man." "I was never a man, Amara," the serpent replied, its voice like the rustling of leaves in the wind, deep and resonant. "I am the embodiment of truth, the truth you have yet to see. I have been bound to this form to guide those who are ready to face the darkness within themselves." Amara's heart pounded in her chest. She had known many things in her life, her beauty, her intellect, her superiority over others, but this was beyond anything she had ever known. The world seemed to tilt beneath her feet, and the ground felt as though it was slipping away. "What do you want from me?" she whispered, her voice trembling despite her efforts to remain strong. The snake's true form. The serpent's golden eyes softened, almost as if it was understanding her fear. "I want nothing from you, princess. I offer you the truth. The truth that lies hidden within your heart. But to find it, you must confront your pride." Amara stepped back again, a knot forming in her stomach. "Pride? What do you mean? You have lived your life consumed by pride, by the belief that you are above others, that your beauty and intellect make you worthy of everything you desire," the serpent said, its voice laced with gentle but firm wisdom. "But pride is not strength, princess. It is a weakness, a chain that binds you to a life of illusions. And until you release it, you will remain trapped in your own prison. Amara's breath caught in her throat. Her pride was that what had led her here. Had her arrogance and refusal to see beyond herself caused this journey into the darkness? The serpent continued, its eyes never leaving hers. You are not the first to walk this path, nor will you be the last. Every soul that seeks the truth must first face their own reflection, the darkness within them that has been hidden, sometimes for lifetimes. Amara trembled, her mind reeling. I don't want to face it, she whispered, her voice cracking. Trapped in the cave. Before she could take another step back, the ground beneath her feet began to rumble. The air grew thick with a sense of impending danger, and the cave entrance began to close, the walls shifting and sealing shut. Amara gasped as she found herself trapped, the only source of light now the eerie glow of the serpent's golden eyes. No, she cried, pounding her fist against the walls of the cave. Let me out. I don't want this. I didn't ask for this. But the serpent remained still, its massive form coiling around her, its eyes never leaving her face. You are not trapped by me, princess. You are trapped by your own pride, Akena said softly. The cave is not a prison of stone, but a prison of the heart. And only when you confront the truth within you will you find the way out. Amara sank to her knees, the weight of his words pressing down on her chest. She had thought she was in control, thought that she could reject others, reject the world around her, and shape her own destiny. But now, in this dark cave, she realized that her pride had built invisible walls around her heart, walls she had never seen until now. Her struggle. Days passed, though it felt like only hours. The darkness of the cave consumed her every thought, and Amara began to spiral, her mind replaying her past actions, the people she had rejected, the times she had belittled those who weren't worthy in her eyes. Her arrogance, once a shield, now felt like a heavy burden pressing down on her soul. She had built her entire life on the belief that she was perfect, that her beauty and intellect made her superior to others. She had rejected love, rejected kindness, rejected humility. But now, trapped in the cold darkness, she wondered if she had made a grave mistake. The serpent, Akena, was silent as she wept, the only sound the soft rustling of his scales against the cave floor. He did not speak, for there was nothing more to say. The truth was now within her grasp, but it was for her to face alone. In the silence, Amara began to understand. Her pride had isolated her from everything she truly needed: love, connection, wisdom. The kingdom of Lintari, her father, the people who loved her, she had pushed them all away in her pursuit of a false, self-imposed perfection. And now, she was truly alone, the search for Amara. The king's sorrow. The once thriving kingdom of Lintari had fallen into a heavy silence since the disappearance of Princess Amara. King Tonu, a ruler known for his strength and wisdom, found himself a broken man. His every waking hour was consumed by grief, the loss of his beloved daughter weighing down upon him like a storm cloud that refused to lift. The palace that had once echoed with the laughter of its people now stood quiet, the grand halls empty save for the whisper of winds through the high windows. King Tonu summoned his best warriors, his bravest trackers, sending them into the dark forest where Amara had vanished, but none of them returned. The forest had changed, the once vibrant trees now twisted and menacing, their branches like skeletal arms reaching for the sky. The air was thick with an unnatural chill, and the path seemed to shift as though the forest itself were hiding its secrets. "Find her, please," King Tonu whispered to the night sky, his voice raw with the pain of a father who could not protect his child. His heart, once as unyielding as the mountains that surrounded Lintari, now felt hollow. His kingdom had lost its light, and with it, a piece of his soul. But despite every effort, Amara remained lost, and the cave where she had vanished seemed to mock their search, hidden from all who sought it. Time passed, the seasons changed, and yet the princess was nowhere to be found. The arrival of a stranger. Years passed in sorrowful silence, until one stormy night, when the wind howled like a mournful spirit and the heavens wept in torrents. A lone figure appeared at the gate of the kingdom. He was a traveler, draped in a simple cloak that billowed around him as he walked. His face was veiled by the storm, but his deep, steady eyes glimmered with a wisdom that seemed to pierce through the rain. The villagers watched him from their doorways, whispers passing through the streets like the wind. There was something about him, something both mysterious and knowing. He made his way toward the palace, his step sure, as though he had walked this path 1,000 times before. When he arrived before King Tonu, the king's sorrowful gaze lifted, intrigued by the man who dared to enter the kingdom on such a night. "I seek the cave where Princess Amara vanished," the traveler said, his voice calm, despite the storm raging outside. The villagers who had gathered to see the stranger trembled at his words. They exchanged nervous glances, and one by one, they murmured their warnings. "No one has returned from that place," one old man said, his voice trembling. "The forest is cursed. The cave is a prison of darkness. It is where lost souls go to never return." The stranger, undeterred, turned his gaze back to the king. "I must find her. The cave holds the answer." King Tonu studied the traveler for a long moment. There was something in his eyes, the knowing, an understanding, that made the king's heart stir with a strange sense of hope. But the king had long since learned that hope alone could not find Amara. Still, something in the man's presence seemed to carry the weight of something ancient, something profound. "Who are you?" King Tonu asked, his voice soft but edged with suspicion. "I am called Oran," the traveler replied simply. "I have come because of a prophecy." "The prophecy?" Oran's words, though few, carried a weight that seemed to shift the very air around them. The storm outside quieted as if listening, waiting for what would come next. The villagers who had gathered in the palace hall leaned in, their curiosity piqued. "A prophecy?" King Tonu echoed. "What prophecy do you speak of?" Oran did not answer immediately. He stood, his face calm, his eyes unfathomable, as though he were searching for the right words in the depth of time itself. Finally, he spoke, his voice deep, resonant with the knowledge of ages. "Only a heart unburdened by pride can lift the chains of the lost soul." The room fell into silence, the words hanging heavily in the air. The villagers exchanged uncertain glances, and King Tonu's brow furrowed. "What does it mean?" the king asked, his voice thick with emotion. "How can anyone lift those chains? My daughter is lost to me. I do not know where she is, or even if she still lives." Oran's gaze softened, and he spoke again, his words as calm and measured as before. "The chains are not made of iron or stone, but of the pride that binds the heart. The princess must be freed not by force, but by a change of heart. Only when she confronts the darkness within her can she find the light once more." King Tonu's heart pounded in his chest. "And you think you can find her?" "I do not think," Oran replied. "I know." The villagers, hearing these words, began to murmur again. Some laughed nervously, while others stepped back, unwilling to believe in such things. But the king, though doubtful, could not ignore the spark of hope that flickered in his chest. He had seen many things in his life, but something about this traveler, this Oran, made him believe that perhaps, just perhaps, there was a chance. "Very well," King Tonu said, though his voice trembled with uncertainty. "If you are truly the one who can find my daughter, then go. But know this, if you fail, the weight of her loss will fall upon you as well." Oran bowed his head slightly, the quiet storm of emotion that passed through the king's words clearly not lost on him. "I will not fail." The path to the cave. That very night, Oran left the palace, guided by the ancient prophecy that had led him here. The villagers, though fearful, spoke of a hidden path that led into the heart of the cursed forest, the path that many had tried to find but never returned from. Oran, however, did not hesitate. He trusted the prophecy, and he trusted the wisdom of the words that had guided him here. With each step into the forest, the darkness seemed to grow deeper, but Oran's resolve never wavered. The wind whispered, but he paid it no mind. The trees creaked and groaned, but he pressed forward, following the invisible thread of fate that pulled him toward the cave of lost souls. The forest seemed to resist him, but Oran's heart remained steady, his mind clear. As he ventured deeper into the wilderness, he felt a strange sense of familiarity, as though he had walked this path before, in another life, another time. Finally, after hours of walking, he arrived at the entrance to the cave. The air around him was thick with the scent of earth and age, and the darkness within the cave seemed to pulse, as though the very walls were alive with a hidden energy. Without hesitation, Oran stepped forward, the prophecy in his heart, and the truth that had brought him here burning brighter with each step. He would find Amara. And he would free her, no matter the cost, the fire of truth. Oran enters the cave. The air inside the cave was oppressive, thick with centuries of secrets and forgotten sorrow. As Oran stepped forward, each movement seemed to reverberate in the heavy silence, pressing against his chest like an unseen weight. The walls of the cave were adorned with twisted roots that snaked down from above, their gnawed limbs stretching like ancient fingers. The ground beneath his feet was damp, the cold moisture clinging to his boots as he walked deeper into the cavern. The shadows seemed to have a life of their own, swirling around him as though they were aware of his presence. Passing by remnants of the past, ancient bones that spoke of long-forgotten creatures, and statues of serpents frozen in time, their eyes set in stone yet seeming to follow his every move, Oran felt an eerie connection to the cave, as though the very earth beneath him knew the purpose of his journey. The deeper he ventured, the stronger the pull of the prophecy seemed to grow. His heart beat in time with the pulse of the cave, the ancient rhythms of truth and darkness intertwined. As Oran reached the heart of the cave, a vast, hollow space opened before him. It was there that he saw her, Princess Amara. She sat on a stone throne, the figure of regal beauty that the world had once adored, but now surrounded by shadows. Her skin, once gleaming like polished copper, seemed muted in the dim light, and her eyes, though still bright, held the weight of sorrow and regret. Beside her, coiled in the darkness, was the serpent. Akena, his true form now monstrous and imposing. His golden eyes glowed with malice, and his scales shimmered like the darkest night. The serpent's massive body stretched across the cavern, twisting in on itself like a living nightmare. He watched Oran approach, his gaze full of menace. "Leave, traveler," the serpent hissed, his voice slithering through the cave like the wind before a storm. "This is not your battle. Turn back while you still can." But Oran did not flinch. He did not hesitate. He had come for a reason, and nothing, especially not the serpent's venomous threats, would make him waver. "I have come for the princess," Oran said firmly, his voice steady. "And I will not leave until she is freed from the chains of pride." Confronting the serpent. Akena's laughter echoed through the cave, a sound that made the very walls tremble. "You think you can challenge me?" he sneered. "I am the guardian of truth, the keeper of humility. You are but a fool with a foolish prophecy." The serpent's body uncoiled, the massive coils slithering toward Oran with terrifying speed. Akena's golden eyes gleamed with rage as he moved to strike, but Oran remained still, his hands raised in the air. In his grasp was the staff of light, crafted from the sacred wood of the elder trees deep in the heart of the sacred forest. It was imbued with the purest light, the light of truth that no shadow could ever fully consume. Akena lunged, but as the serpent's fangs descended toward Oran, a burst of blinding light erupted from the staff, engulfing the cave in a radiant glow. The serpent recoiled, its massive form twisting away from the light as if burned by its very presence. The ground shook, the walls cracked, and the darkness that had once seemed to consume the cave began to shrink back, retreating from the pure force of truth. "I will not allow you to keep her bound in this darkness," Oran declared, his voice unwavering. The battle between light and dark had begun, and it was a fight that would determine not just Amara's fate, but the future of the kingdom itself. The battle of light and dark. The cave erupted into chaos as Akena, in all his serpentine fury, charged at Oran once more. The light from the staff clashed with the serpent's dark power, sending sparks flying through the air like stars exploding. The serpent's scales glowed like 1,000 dark jewels, each one reflecting the light with malevolent gleam, while Oran's staff burned brighter with every strike. With each movement of the serpent, Oran's light grew stronger, pushing back the darkness that had long held the cave in its grip. The serpent's tail lashed out, snapping like a whip, but Oran stood his ground, holding the staff high, letting its light blaze brighter and brighter. "You cannot defeat me," Akena hissed as he twisted and coiled, the earth beneath him cracking. "You are weak. The truth is nothing but a fleeting illusion." "Truth," Oran replied, his voice resolute, "is not something you can destroy. It will endure even in the face of your darkness." The battle continued, each strike of the serpent a violent clash against the purity of Oran's light. But with each movement, Oran felt his connection to the prophecy growing stronger. The light within him, fueled by the truth of his heart and the belief in the prophecy's power, pushed back the serpent's darkness. The cave trembled as Oran's light reached its zenith, and with a final, explosive burst of energy, the serpent's form shattered in a burst of shadows, scattering into the air like ash in the wind. The cave fell silent. Amara's awakening. As the darkness began to fade, Amara's eyes flickered. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, she blinked, her gaze clearing. She looked around, as though waking from a long, restless sleep. The stone throne upon which she had sat for so long seemed to crumble away, as if the very weight of her pride was being lifted. Her gaze locked with Oran's, and for the first time since her disappearance, she saw him, not as a stranger, but as someone who had come to save her. "You freed me," Amara whispered, her voice a soft echo in the stillness of the cave. Oran stepped forward, his heart filled with compassion and understanding. "I did not free you, Princess. You freed yourself. You faced the darkness within you, and you allowed the light of truth to guide you." Amara's heart trembled as memories of who she once was flooded back, memories of a woman full of grace and wisdom, before the pride had clouded her judgment. She had been so blinded by her own vanity, by the belief that she was superior to all others, that she had lost herself. But now, in the presence of Oran and the fire of truth, she began to understand. "I was lost," Amara said, her voice thick with emotion. "I was so focused on the world's admiration, I forgot what truly mattered." "True worth is found in the heart, Princess," Oran replied, his voice gentle but firm. "And your heart is full of light." Amara stood, her legs shaky but strong as she took a step forward. She no longer felt the weight of her pride, no longer bound by the chains of vanity. Her journey had just begun, but with Oran by her side, she knew that she would never again be trapped in darkness. And as the last of the shadows in the cave receded, the first rays of dawn broke through the cave's entrance, bathing them both in the warm light of a new beginning. The return of the princess. Breaking the chains of pride. As Amara stood at the heart of the cave, she felt the weight of her journey settle within her. The battle of light and dark had been fierce, and the darkness still lingered, trying to claw at her soul. But in this moment, with the serpent's monstrous presence looming before her, something in her heart shifted. "I no longer belong to you," Amara said with unwavering conviction, her voice calm but full of strength. "You are a prison, and I am free." The serpent, Akena, recoiled as if struck by an unseen force. His golden eyes widened in disbelief, but there was something else, something deeper. "Fear," he hissed softly, his scales trembling as Amara's words pierced through the air like a sharp arrow. Slowly, he began to shrink, his massive form retreating into the shadows from which it had come, unwilling to face the power of Amara's newfound humility. The grip of pride that had bound her heart for so long loosened, and with a final shudder, the serpent vanished into the darkness, his presence dissolving into the cavern's cold walls. Amara stood alone, her heart light, her spirit unburdened. The chains that had held her for so long were gone, and for the first time in years, she felt free, truly free. The journey back. As the first light of dawn broke across the forest, Oren stepped forward, offering Amara his hand. Without hesitation, she took it. Together, they walked out of the cave, and with every step, the world around them seemed to come alive. The trees, once twisted and barren, began to bloom, their leaves bright green and full of life. The air, which had been thick with darkness, was now warm and fresh, carrying with it the scent of renewal. The forest, too, was healing, just as Amara's heart had healed. The journey back felt like the closing of a chapter, one filled with lessons learned, with pain overcome, and with a wisdom that could only be earned through facing the harshest truths. Amara had changed, and the world around her was changing too. The kingdom's joy. When Amara and Oren finally reached the gates of Lintori, the kingdom that had long mourned her loss, the people were waiting. Word had spread of her return, and the streets were filled with joyous cries. The citizens, young and old, gathered to see the princess who had once been lost to pride, now returned to them as a woman of wisdom and grace. King Tonu, though old and frail, stood at the head of the crowd, his eyes filled with tears of joy and pride. He had feared he would never see his daughter again, but now, seeing her before him, he could scarcely believe it. "Amara," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "My daughter, you have returned." Amara approached him slowly, her heart full. She embraced her father, feeling the weight of his years and the love that had never wavered. King Tonu held her tightly, his trembling hands smoothing her hair, as though trying to hold on to the daughter he had once known. "I am proud of you," he said softly, his voice breaking. "You have learned the lessons I could not teach you. You are stronger than I ever imagined." But Amara did not return to the throne. She had no desire for the crown that had once seemed so important to her. The riches and power that had blinded her were now meaningless in her eyes. Instead, she turned to the people who had longed for her return, those who had suffered without her guidance. "I do not wish to rule from a throne," she said, her voice clear and strong. "I wish to live among you. I will teach what I have learned, that the true strength of a kingdom lies not in its wealth, but in the hearts of its people." The legacy of the princess. Amara's story became a legend, told and retold for generations to come. Her journey from pride to humility, from isolation to understanding, was passed down through songs and tales. The people of Lintori honored her not for her beauty or her noble birth, but for the lessons she imparted. Her legacy was one of true strength, the strength to confront one's flaws and to choose a path of humility, no matter how difficult. Amara taught that wealth and beauty fade, but the richness of a humble heart endures. As the years passed, the kingdom flourished, not through the might of a powerful ruler, but through the compassion and wisdom of a princess who had learned to walk in the world with grace, humility, and an open heart. And every year, on the day of her return, the people of Lintori would gather to celebrate the woman who had shown them the way, not with gold, but with truth. And so, the tale of Princess Amara, the woman who had once been lost in pride and had found the path of humility, lived on forever, a beacon of light for those who would one day follow her footsteps into the world of truth and grace.